The sky above was red, not the red of sunset. No, this sky bled like a fresh wound. Sira opened her eyes. Her body was cold. Her skin was shaking. She tasted metal in her mouth. Her left leg hurt badly. She tried to sit up, but pain shot through, her like fire. She cried out softly. All around her the land was dead. Dark rocks, sharp cliffs, and in the distance, howls, not wind, not human, something alive, something hunting. She was alone. They had left her own people. The elders, the warriors, even her mother. They put her in the small escape pod and dropped her here. You are cursed, they had said. The monsters will take you, and we will be clean. Tears ran down her cheeks, but she made no sound. Crying would not help here. Crying would bring the monsters faster. Sira crawled under a broken metal plate from her pod and hugged her arms around herself. Her purple skin had turned pale from the cold. Her silver hair was stuck to her face with blood. She closed her eyes. Maybe it was better to die now. Maybe sleep would take her. Then the sky screamed. A ship, small, silver, burning at the tail, cut through the blood sky and smashed into the rocky ground nearby. The crash shook the earth. Smoke rose, and Sira's eyes opened wide. Someone else had come. Mason coughed as he unstrapped himself from the crash seat. Sparks flew from the broken dashboard. The emergency lights blinked, warning signs everywhere. Great, he muttered. Perfect landing, Mason. He grabbed his small pack and checked his arm. Bruised, but not broken. He opened the side door and stepped outside. The air was dry. The sky, red. Too red. Where the hell am I? He whispered. His boots crunched over black dirt as he walked forward. The land looked like death. He had only landed because the ship's engine caught fire during hyperspace drop. He didn't even know this system had planets. Then, he heard it, a small sound, like breathing, struggling. He looked around. Nothing. Again, closer. A soft whimper. He turned and followed the sound, hand on his sidearm. Behind a pile of broken metal, he found her, a girl. Maybe 16 or 17 in human years, but clearly not human. Purple skin, silver hair, a wound on her leg, eyes that looked terrified and exhausted. Mason raised both hands slowly. Hey, he said gently. It's okay. I'm not here to hurt you. The girl looked at him. Her lips moved. Please, don't leave. Sira didn't know this creature. She had never seen a human before. He looked strange, no tail, short ears, flat face, but his eyes were kind. He pulled something from his belt and held it up. A small water pack. Drink, he said, offering it carefully. She reached out with shaking hands and drank slowly. Water tasted like life. He looked at her leg, then at her face. Can I help? He asked. She didn't understand the words, but his tone, his hands, his eyes. She understood. She gave a small nod. He knelt and gently checked her wound. That's a nasty cut, he said. Might be poison in there. She flinched in pain but didn't cry out. He cleaned the cut with water and wrapped it with soft cloth from his medkit. You're lucky I was nearby, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. But they both knew it wasn't luck. She had been left to die. And now, something was watching. High, on the cliffs, a beast sniffed the air. It had 3 legs, black eyes, rows of teeth like knives. It had tasted alien blood before, and it smelled prey below, the human and the girl. It crept forward in silence, claws ready. Night fell fast. Mason set up a small light near the pod and built a fire with broken panel pieces. He didn't want to stay long, but the girl couldn't walk, and there were no signals to call for help. Sira sat close to the fire, still quiet, but her eyes now watched him. He spoke slowly. My name is Mason, she pointed to herself. Sira. He smiled. Sira. Got it. She smiled weakly. Back then the ground shook. Mason stood up. What was that? Sierra's face turned pale. Her lips moved quickly. Not alone. Not safe. From the shadows came a sound. A deep growl. A shape stepped into the firelight. Tall. Muscled. Eyes glowing red. Mason pulled his weapon. Stay. Behind me. Sierra tried to warn him, but it was already too late. The fire crackled weakly. Smoke drifted upward into the cold red sky. But around Mason and Sierra, the shadows grew thicker. The growl came again, closer now. Sierra clung to Mason's side, her breath quick and shallow. Her legs still throbbed with pain, but fear made her forget it for a moment. Mason raised his weapon, a compact energy pistol. He had only 6 shots left. Not much, not for a planet full of unknown creatures. The beast stepped into view. It was massive. 8 feet tall, black skin like cracked stone, and 4 glowing red eyes. Its jaw hung open, dripping saliva. 2 sharp horns curved backward from its head, and claws dug into the ground like knives in clay. Mason whispered, "Stay down. If it moves, run." But Sierra didn't move. Her people had told her about this creature. They called it Galactic, the planet eaters, the ones who came when blood was spilled. She reached for Mason's arm, whispering, "No shoot. It not. Stop." He frowned. "You're saying this gun won't help?" She nodded. "Smell fear. It want chase." The creature suddenly roared and charged. Mason grabbed Sierra and pulled her into a nearby rock tunnel. The Galactic slammed into the edge, missing them by inches. Its claws scratched the stone, sending sparks flying. They ran through the narrow path, Sierra limping, Mason half carrying her. Behind them, the monster pushed its body through the rocks, smashing anything in its path. "I need to slow it down," Mason shouted. He placed a flare bomb near the wall and clicked the button. Boom! Rocks fell behind them, sealing the tunnel, for now. They collapsed in a hidden cave, breathing hard. Sierra looked at Mason with wide, shocked eyes. "You saved me. Again." Mason gave a tired smile. "That's kind of my thing." The cave was damp and dark. Water dripped from the ceiling. Mason checked Sierra's leg again. It was worse than before. Her skin was cold, and her hands were shaking. He pulled out a thermal blanket and wrapped it around her. "You need warmth," he said. Sierra stared at him, confused. "Why? Why help me?" Mason didn't answer right away. He leaned back against the wall, looking at the strange stars outside. "Because where I come from," he finally said. "You don't leave people behind. Doesn't matter if they're human or not." Sierra's lips trembled. Her voice was soft. "My people left me. Said I was wrong." "What did you do?" he asked. She paused. "Born with wrong eyes. My blood is not pure. They say I bring death." Mason shook his head. "No. The only ones bringing death are them, and those things outside." Hours passed. They rested, but something moved again. This time, not a beast. A soft beeping echoed through the cave. Mason pulled out his damaged comm device. A faint signal blinked across the screen. It wasn't human. It wasn't from Sierra's people either. It was a beacon. "Someone's out there," Mason muttered. "But who?" Sierra leaned closer. She looked at the signal and gasped. "No. It them. They come back." "What? Your people?" She nodded. "Yes, they come to finish, not save." Mason clenched his jaw. "Great, so we've got monsters in front and murderers behind." He stood up. "We can't stay here." Sierra tried to rise but groaned in pain. "I slow you down." He looked her in the eyes. "I'm not leaving you." Outside the cave, the Galactic circled the hills. It had lost their scent in the tunnels, but it would not forget. It would not leave. Up above, the sky shimmered. A sleek alien ship hovered just beyond the clouds, watching, scanning. The tribe had returned, not to rescue, but to erase the last shame of their people. A cursed girl, and a foolish human protecting her. Mason packed supplies quickly and helped Sira to her feet. She leaned on him, her body weak, but her spirit stronger. "Where we go?" she asked. "We survive," Mason replied. Somehow. As they stepped, into the night the red mist curled around their feet, and in the distance, the Galactic roared again. But Sira no longer shook in fear. She whispered to herself, "I'm not alone anymore." The mist was heavy around them. Every breath felt thick like breathing smoke. Mason and Sira moved slowly. He held her tightly, helping her walk over sharp stones and twisted roots. Behind them, the echoes of the Galactic beast faded, but not for long. It would return. Monsters on this planet always returned. But Mason wasn't just worried about the creature anymore. The beacon signal was getting stronger. And Sira, she was afraid of something worse than monsters. They stopped near a ridge. From there they could see the distant sky flicker. A sleek alien ship hovered just above the valley. No noise, no lights, only shadows. Sira's face turned pale the moment she saw it. "That ship," she whispered. "My people." Mason looked through his cracked binoculars. "Looks advanced, full stealth mode. I doubt they're here for tea." She shook her head. "Not here to help. They come to erase." "Erase what?" "Me." Sira sat on a rock, breathing heavily. Her leg was swelling again. Mason knelt down and gave her a sip of water, then looked her in the eyes. "Tell me the truth. Why would your own people want you dead?" She hesitated. Then finally her voice came, small and quiet. "I was born different. My blood, it changed. Too strong. Too strange. They said I carried human traces." Mason blinked. "What?" "My mother worked in science labs long ago. She touched human tech. Some say she touched human DNA. They say I am not pure." Mason's voice hardened. "So they left you to die? Because they think your blood is mixed?" She nodded slowly. "The elders called it justice. Said I was cursed. Said I would bring ruin if I lived." Mason stood and paced angrily. "They abandoned you, lied to you, and now they're coming back to finish the job." He looked down at her. "Not if I can help it." Far above, inside the alien ship, cold eyes watched the valley. A tall woman in silver armor stood in silence. Her name was Commander Jera, and she had been the one who gave the order. Leave the girl. Let the planet take her. Now she saw something unexpected. A human, protecting the exile. Disgusting. Jera spat. He contaminates her further. The second in command asked, "Shall we strike from the air?" Jera narrowed her eyes. "No, we do this clean, quiet. Let the land eat them. No evidence, no honor for the cursed." Back in the valley, Mason had an idea. "We need to find shelter, high ground," he said. "If we stay low, we're sitting targets." He carried Sira on his back as they climbed a narrow trail. Trees twisted like claws, and the ground groaned. Beneath them, at the top, they found an old ruin, stone walls half buried in vines. It looked ancient, alien, forgotten. "This'll have to do," he said, setting her down gently. She looked around. "Old place, from before our kind. No one comes here." "Good," Mason said. "Let's make sure no one leaves here either." Night fell again. Sira rested in a corner, wrapped in the thermal blanket. Her breathing was weak but steady. Mason worked outside, laying traps. Small noise bombs, spike pits, and smoke pellets. It wasn't much, but he had learned in war. Fear can be stronger than bullets. When he came back, he saw Sira holding something in her hands, an old pendant. "What's that?" he asked. She smiled sadly. "My mother gave it to me. She said, 'If I'm ever alone, remember the stars.'" Mason sat beside her. "You're not alone anymore." She looked at him. "You are kind, not like the stories. They said humans were monsters." He laughed softly. Yeah, we get that a lot. Suddenly, static crackled from Mason's device. A voice came through. Sharp cold, Sira of Clan Velcora, you were warned. Your blood is a threat, you will be erased. Sira froze. Her hands trembled. Mason picked up the device. If you come near her, I'll show you what humans really are. The voice replied. You'll die with her then. So be it. Then the signal cut. Sira looked at him with tears in her eyes. You should run, leave me, they won't stop. Mason shook his head. You don't leave people behind, he said again. You fight. You survive. Together. High above the ship descended, and below in the ruins a cursed girl and one stubborn human prepared to face the storm. The night was too quiet. Even the wind had stopped moving. It felt like the whole planet was holding its breath. Mason stood, at the edge of the ruined wall, looking up at the dark sky. The stars were blocked by something massive, their ship, sleek, silent, floating like a shadow ready to strike. Behind him, Sira sat near the ancient stones, holding her pendant tightly. Her eyes were wide, but her voice was calm now. They won't speak again, she said. Next time they attack. Mason nodded slowly. Then we'll be ready. But deep inside, he knew the truth. They were not ready. Inside the alien ship, Commander Zera stood before her soldiers. All wore black armor with silver masks. No emotion, no questions. Zera's voice echoed. The cursed one hides below, with the human. She cannot be allowed to leave this world. A soldier asked, Shall we bomb the ruins from orbit? No, Zera said. Too noisy, too dirty. We cleanse the blood with honor. We go down. We kill with our hands. She pointed to a screen, showing Sira's heat signature. Let the girl see our faces before the end. Back at the ruins, Mason was wiring his final traps. He had found an old power cell from his crash kit and tied it to a motion sensor. It wouldn't kill, but it would blind anything that got too close. Sira watched him amazed. You fight like warrior. He gave her a crooked smile. I was a mechanic once. But war teaches you things. She nodded. My people. They fear. Humans. They say you burn everything you touch. He shrugged. We also fix things. And protect those we care about. Sira's voice softened. No one ever protected me before. The ground trembled. A sharp hum filled the air. Mason looked up. They're landing. He rushed over and helped Sira to her feet. We stick to the plan. Stay inside the ruins. When the light bomb goes off, run. I'll cover you. Sira shook her head. I won't leave you. You have to. You're the one they fear. That means you're important. You have to live. Before he could say more, the sky cracked open with a bright beam. A black dropship descended fast, slamming into the earth nearby. Dust flew everywhere. Rocks tumbled, and from the ship, they came. 10 warriors, armored, silent, moving like shadows. Mason held his breath and pressed the detonator. Boom! The first trap exploded, sending smoke and flash into the air. 2 warriors fell back, blinded. The others split, moving around the fire. Mason fired his pistol. One shot hit a mask, cracking it. Another missed. He ducked behind a stone column. Sira, limping, crawled toward a hidden tunnel at the back of the ruins. But Zera saw her. The commander stepped forward, lifting her long blade. You run, cursed child, but your blood calls to us. Mason stood between them. You'll have to go through me. Zera smiled coldly. So be it. They clashed, blade against metal. Zera moved fast, like a ghost. Mason blocked, dodged, fought with everything he had. His arm was cut, his shoulder burned, but he didn't fall. Sira screamed. No! She picked up a stone and threw it at one of the other soldiers sneaking behind Mason. The hit gave Mason a second of space, enough to land a punch that cracked Zera's helmet. Zera stumbled, and then, behind her, a soft beep. Mason's last trap. Flash. A blinding light burst out, burning the night. The warriors screamed and covered their eyes. Mason grabbed Sira. Now! They ran, through the back tunnel. into the jungle, but not before Zara's voice echoed again through a small hidden mic. Run all you want, but death follows. Your blood calls to us, and it will end with fire. Hours later, deep in the jungle, Mason and Sierra collapsed near a small waterfall. He checked her wound. Still bad, but not worse. We'll need shelter, he said, and food, and time. Sierra nodded weakly. They will come again. He looked at her seriously. Then we make them regret it. She looked up at him. Really looked. You stay. Even when it means death. Mason nodded. I'm not leaving. High. Above, Zara watched from her ship. She touched her cracked mask and whispered, The hunt is not over. It has only begun. Rain began to fall, but not water. Not soft. Ash. Black flakes drifted down from the clouds, falling like snow. The jungle trees hissed as it touched their leaves. The sky above burned orange and red. Something had changed. Sierra sat on a rock near the waterfall, watching the sky. Her breath was slow. Her wound still ached. But her heart was awake now. The fire in the sky wasn't natural. Her people had begun the final purge. Mason returned with his arms full of broken tech and thick vines. Found an old supply box from my pod, he said, dropping the items in front of her. We'll use this stuff to make a signal jammer. It won't stop them forever, but it might give us some time. Sierra nodded. They fear what I am. That means I matter now. Mason smirked. You always mattered. They were just too blind to see it. She touched his hand. And you see me, even when I couldn't. Far above, Commander Zara stood in her war room. The screen showed the jungle burning. Drone strikes had already begun. The planet itself would be her weapon now. No caves, no tunnels. Burn it all, she commanded. One soldier hesitated. Commander, what if the girl escapes again? Zara's cold eyes turned to him. She won't. Not this time. Fire will make sure. Down on the surface, Mason looked at the rising smoke in the distance. They've started burning the jungle. Sierra stood beside him now, leaning less on him than before. They will destroy everything just to kill me. He looked at her. Then we don't hide anymore. We fight. But how? She asked. They have ships, guns, fire. Mason pointed to the supply crate. With brains. Together they worked quickly. Mason stripped wires, connected old batteries, and twisted metal parts into crude traps and signal jammers. Sierra helped using knowledge from her childhood. Her mother had once worked in a lab. She remembered frequencies. She remembered codes. They made a plan not to run but to lure the enemy. By nightfall, they had moved to an open cliff near the canyon's edge. From there, they could see the fire line creeping closer. Heat cracked the sky. Smoke choked the stars. Mason placed the last jammer on a tall stone pillar. This will mess up their drone vision. If they want to find us, they'll have to come down. Sierra looked across the valley. They will come angry, ready to kill. He nodded. And I'll be ready to fight. She touched her chest. And I will not run anymore. The jungle exploded. 3 alien pods dropped from the sky like meteors, smashing into the earth around them. Dust clouds rose. Red lights blinked from each pod. Elite soldiers emerged, silent, armored, deadly. And last came Zara. Her armor glowed under the firelight. Her mask was gone now. Her silver eyes locked on Sierra. You should have died like your bloodline, she said coldly. Instead, you make me come down here and finish the work myself. Mason stepped between them. You're not touching her. Zara drew her blade. Then you die first. The battle was chaos. Smoke bombs exploded. Traps went off. Wires snapped. Electricity surged. Blinding light burst across the field. Mason fought with speed and fury, using every trick he knew. He knocked one soldier off the cliff. Another fell into a spike pit. Sierra, breathing fast, hacked into the enemy comm system using Mason's handheld pad. Overload their suits, she whispered, fingers flying. The soldiers' helmets buzzed. Static screamed in their ears. 2 dropped to their knees, but Zara kept coming. She swung at Mason, cutting his side. He cried out but stood his ground. He punched back, kicked, dodged, but he was slowing. Zara lifted her blade to strike, and stopped, because Sira had jumped between them. "No," she shouted. "I'm not afraid of you anymore," Zara growled. "Then you will die with him." But before she could strike, the final trap triggered. A flare cannon, built from Mason's crash pod, shot straight up. It exploded in the sky, sending a beacon into orbit, the human rescue signal. Zara stared at the light above. "You called them?" Sira nodded. "They'll come, and they won't let you erase me." Zara raised her blade anyway, but this time, it was Mason who struck first. He tackled her from behind and they both tumbled off the ledge. Sira screamed. Silence. Then, a hand reached up from the edge. Mason, bleeding, exhausted. She pulled him back with all the strength she had. "You came back," she whispered. "I always do," he said, barely conscious. Far in the distance, human ships were entering the atmosphere. Bright, loud, armed, and this time they were coming for her, not to kill, but to protect. Smoke still filled the air. Flames crackled across the far edge of the jungle. The orange light lit up the broken battlefield where Sira stood, alone now. Mason lay behind her, bleeding and barely awake. The alien warriors were down, some stunned, some fallen. But Commander Zara was still standing. Her silver armor was scorched. Her face had cuts from Mason's strike, but her eyes, cold, proud, and cruel, did not blink. "You are nothing, girl," she spat. "A broken child with cursed blood." Sira felt her heart race. Her legs shook. But this time, it was not from fear, it was from anger. She turned slowly and picked up the blade Mason had dropped. It was heavier than she expected, but she gripped it tight. "My name is Sira Velcora," she said, her voice rising. "You called me shame. You left me to monsters. You burned the world to erase me." She took one step forward. "And now I will show you why you should have killed me when I was weak." Zara smiled coldly. "So the girl wants to fight now?" "No," Sira said. "The woman does." Zara struck first, fast, sharp. Sira barely blocked the blade. Sparks flew. Her arms screamed with pain, but she stood her ground. They clashed again and again. Zara moved like a storm, trained, perfect. But Sira moved like something wild, unpredictable, born of survival. She wasn't fighting with skill, she was fighting with memory. Every moment alone. Every scream in the dark. Every time her people said she was unworthy. She poured it into each strike. Behind them, Mason coughed. He tried to stand but couldn't. Blood covered his shirt. He watched helplessly as Sira fought. "She's winning?" he whispered. Zara began to breathe harder. "You should be dead." Sira blocked another hit. "You're tired." "I'm not." "You're bleeding. I've bled before." Then Sira stepped to the side. Zara's blade missed, and in one move, Sira stabbed forward, straight through Zara's shoulder. The commander screamed and dropped her sword. Sira stood. Over her, blade in hand, Zara snarled. "Finish it. Kill me." Sira raised the blade, then stopped. "No," she said. "That's your way, not mine." She turned and walked back to Mason. Zara screamed behind her, crawling for her weapon, but before she could reach it, a blast echoed through the air. A human dropship descended, engines roaring. Blue lights lit the battlefield. Armed soldiers poured out, shouting orders. Zara froze. The humans had arrived. Sira fell to her knees beside Mason. He looked up at her and smiled weakly. "Told you. I'd be back." She laughed softly, tears in her eyes. "You never left." Human medics rushed to them. A tall officer knelt beside Sira. "We picked up your signal," he said. "We came as fast as we could." Sira looked at him. "Can you save him?" "We'll try," the medic said, lifting Mason onto a stretcher. Sira watched him go, holding his hand until it slipped from hers. Then she turned to the officer. "Commander Zera, she's injured, but alive." The officer nodded. "She'll answer for what she's done." As dawn broke, the human ship lifted from the jungle floor. Sira sat by the window watching the burning trees shrink below. For the first time in her life, she wasn't being taken away in chains. She was being carried home. Hours later, on the human ship, Mason opened his eyes. Sira was waiting. He smiled. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I didn't run." "I knew you wouldn't." She held his hand. "You saved me first," she said. "But now, I saved us." The stars outside the ship window shimmered like cold diamonds. Sira sat quietly in the medbay beside Mason's bed. Machines beeped softly, keeping rhythm with his breath. His wounds were healing, slowly. Human doctors had done everything they could, but he still hadn't woken up fully. She rested her hand on his. "He stayed," she whispered. "Even when I wanted to give up." She looked at the stars again, and this time, she didn't feel small. She felt seen. 2 days passed. The human command ship orbited above the planet they had escaped from. Below, fire still burned across the jungle. Human rescue teams pulled out wreckage, recovered tech, and scanned for survivors. They didn't find any of Zera's warriors. Only Zera herself, locked in a reinforced holding cell, stripped of her armor. Her pride shattered, she refused to speak, but everyone now knew the truth. On the third morning, Mason finally stirred. His eyes blinked open. The ceiling was white, unfamiliar, but the first thing he saw was her. Sira's face, her silver hair glowing in the warm light, her eyes filled with relief. "You're awake," she said softly. Mason gave a tired smile. "I told you I'm hard to kill." She laughed just a little. Then tears filled her eyes. "You scared me." "You scared me too," he said, squeezing her hand. "You fought her. You survived." She looked down. "I had to. For you." Later that day, the human captain invited Sira to the command deck. She stepped onto the bridge, surrounded by officers, screens, and distant stars. "We recovered your people's files," the captain said. "They declared you an exile, a threat." Sira nodded. "Because I was different." "Well," he said, handing her a datapad, "we've reviewed your DNA sequence and you're not a threat. In fact," he paused, "you might be the key to healing a rare genetic disease spreading across several border colonies. The curse in your blood. It's not a curse. It's a cure." Sira blinked. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I could save lives?" The captain nodded. "With your permission, our scientists would like to study your gift, with full rights, freedom, and choice." Sira smiled for the first time without sadness. "Yes, I want to help." That evening, she returned to Mason's room. He was sitting, up now, sipping broth and joking with the medbot. "You're a hero now," she said as she entered. He grinned. "I'd rather be asleep. Fame is exhausting." She sat beside him. "They want to keep me, not as a prisoner, as a researcher, someone who can save others." He raised an eyebrow. "You gonna wear a lab coat and boss people around?" "Maybe," she smiled. "But only if you're around to fix the machines when I break them." He chuckled. "Deal." She grew quiet then, and looked at him closely. "You came from the sky," she said, "crashing and bleeding. I thought you were just another monster." "And I thought I'd landed alone," he replied. She reached for his hand. "But you stayed," she said. "You gave me hope when I had none. You became the only light in the dark. In my people's stories, we have a word for that kind of person." "What word?" She leaned closer and whispered, "My star." Weeks later, on a distant human colony, a new lab opened. Co-run by human and alien researchers, Sira led the team. Mason worked nearby, keeping the equipment running and joking with the staff. The children there called them heroes. But when the work ended each day, and the sun set behind alien trees, Sierra would sit under the stars with Mason and whisper the words that saved her once. "You stayed." And he would smile and reply, "Always."